Hi, everyone. I'm John Lynn, the founder of HITMC, and we're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in healthcare marketing. And today's guest is the HITMC Rising Star Award winner. It's Olivia Schlabach. She's Associate Vice President at Finn Partners. Welcome, Olivia.
Hey, John. Nice to be on the other side of the chair today.
Yeah, well, it's so funny. We've done so many video interviews with your clients over the years, but this is actually a lot of fun. And I always love to be with award winners too. So
I love
for those
it.
that don't know about you, tell us about yourself and Finn Partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an associate vice president at Finn Partners, and I get to represent a lot of awesome organizations in the healthcare practice. Clients that are serving a revenue cycle, patient financing, telehealth, all kinds of good stuff. Our motto at Finn is work hard, play nice, which is really, really important to me. And I think it's really just so pertinent right now in the world that we're living in. And we really do that. So we have an awesome team. We have, just a group out in Nashville. We have our Atlanta office. We have a team out in Israel. It's been really cool just to have so many different voices coming together to promote healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. Finn's a great organization to work with. What's it like? I saw in your background that you started, worked in marketing in NASCAR. What's it like going from kind of NASCAR marketing to healthcare?
Man, it's been a whirlwind. So, I've always said that sports is kind of like my my hidden love interest. If
Oh
I was
yeah.
maybe in any other field, that was what I would do. And it actually was what I did before I came into healthcare.
Wow.
Um, it's definitely interesting. There's definitely kind of that family feel where, kind of once you get to know, once you're in, and once you kind of get to know people in your community within sports and within healthcare, you're very tight knit with those people. I still have a lot of great friends in the industry, that I still get to communicate with. I'm in, North Carolina, right outside of, the
Sure.
capital of racing. So, I love the sport. But I also think, there are some differences too, for sure. And I think, at the end of the day, you're promoting that story, right? Of, you know, um, just, moving things forward. And so, in the sport, I can see where NASCAR's made a lot of advancements in the past couple of years, trying to be more inclusive, trying to
Hmm.
bring more equity to racing. I think healthcare is kind of headed in that same direction, which has been really cool to see. So it's kind of weird being in a completely different industry, but there are some parallels of, just kind of being more inclusive that has been really, really exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a not so secret love affair with sports. So although I haven't been to a
Need
NASCAR event live, it's on the list to do, the bucket list.
to
So one
go.
day.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. So talk about a PR project maybe that you're most proud of and tell us what made it a success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, I would say, on a more, general level, anytime a client has a goal and we're able to bring that to fruition, we're able to achieve what they're looking to do, that's always a success story for me. I think one in particular that actually happened over the summer, we had a client that was going through a big rebrand, and this was a lot of time and work in the making. It was actually three companies kind of coming together as one. So there was some merger and acquisition activity, and each company kind of had their sweet spot. And so really bringing those three separate entities together, and being able to tell one cohesive message was really, really cool. So we, Finn kind of helped with all of their PR, their go-to-market messaging, getting them in front of editors. We actually had a really good interview not too long ago with Wall Street Journal, which was really
Wow.
exciting. So
Yeah.
it was really cool. Obviously, we got a lot of industry support too, but it was really cool just being able to see that kind of come to life. And then, we went to Denver over the summer and got to, kind of reveal everything at the HFMA National Conference, which I think I teared up. Like it was bittersweet, just seeing it kind of all,
Uh-huh.
come to
It's hard
fruition.
work to do those, right? I think people underestimate how much work, especially three brands who have their own cultures, their own history, to bring it together in one is a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And there's no silver bullet for it.
Yeah.
You really have to bring everybody to the table. You kind of have to put it all out on the table and just say, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? What's our goal? how can we, how can we come together collectively and make each other better? And honestly, how can we make healthcare better? And I won't name the company, but I think they're doing a really good job of doing that. And it's been really rewarding to be on the front lines with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the interesting things I see following a lot of healthcare press and, some of my peers in the, there's so much movement. And then there's also publications that are just disappearing or combining or, or evolving and all that. Like, what do you do to kind of keep up to date on all the movement in the press? And how do you maintain the relationship with all these press?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of consider it like any other, relationship or friendship. The editors really become your friends. They've become my friends, over the past couple of years of being within the industry. I think, as the pandemic has kind of toned down a little bit, it's been really cool to be able to meet up in person, to meet in real life, whether we're going up to Chicago for a media tour or we're getting to connect, at HITMC or at another conference. I think maintaining that face-to-face kind of interaction is such a key role. But also I think it's, staying abreast of what's going on in the news. I read the New York Times every Sunday. I'm on Twitter a lot. AP is like ride or die, knowing what's going on. Those are just a couple. And then obviously, industry news as well, making sure, I think it's cool with healthcare. There's so much of what we do day to day in our industry that intersects with others, whether that's, equities, legislation. I hate to say political, but I kind of feel like everything is kind of political. So
Yeah, it's the biggest buyer in healthcare, right? Like, it has to be political.
So, making sure I'm abreast of what's going on, not only is it helpful for me, but it's also helpful for the clients I represent. They expect that of me, as they should. And so, I think it's really important just maintaining those relationships, but also, educating yourself and knowing what's going on.
Yeah, it's probably the worst way to ruin your relationship with the press is to send them a pitch that's not targeted, that's tone deaf to what's happening, right?
Totally. Yeah. You've gotta do your homework. It's just as important, if a client comes to you and, they have a story idea, it's just as important for the PR professional to make sure that that story or that pitch aligns with the reporter that you're, communicating with. So I think that, the onus goes both ways there for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What have you learned when it comes to really helping your clients find the right stories to pitch to press? And how do you balance that? You're like, hey, they really want to do a story, but you're like, yeah, the press isn't really going to cover that. How do you manage that? And what have you learned in that process?
It's hard, John Lynn. That is the hardest thing that I do at my job every day. But
why PR people get paid the big bucks? Like, yeah, okay.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think, it's really just being mindful of like I was saying, what's going on right now within the industry and across the country, just from a news standpoint. But I think too, it's level setting. It's kind of setting those expectations with your client to say, hey, I'm totally happy to pitch this for you. It may be picked up as an announcement rather than a full-fledged story, and making sure they're okay with that. So I think you really have to, I know, what we do at Fin, it's important to just set those expectations on the ground level and make sure that everybody's aligned. That way, regardless of if it's, front page news or if it's a company announcement in an e-blast, people are kind of aware of what the final deliverable will be. So yeah. I feel like we owe that, as an account executive, I owe that to my clients to make sure that their needs are met, but also that they're not disappointed.
Yeah, I think the thing I see, obviously I receive all these pitches for Healthcare IT Today. And when I receive them, I think the thing that some people forget, and this is probably companies more than PR people, is that what may be a big deal to your company isn't necessarily a big deal to the industry, right? Like, so they pitch it to me and I'm like, wow, that's huge, right? Like, that's great for them that they've had that success or they've hired that person or whatever, right? Like, that's a big step for them. And so, like, to me, it's like, oh, that's great. And I can see why for them it's a big change or it's a shift of direction or whatever it might be. But okay, that's great. That's big for them, but is it big for the industry, right? Which I think is a hard thing to understand sometimes.
Absolutely. I think too, it's important to remember, there's been all kinds of research and studies done about what's the ideal pitch length, how much should you tell, what should you keep under wraps. I always try to remind our clients, don't sell the whole farm. If you think you have a story that's compelling enough, the reporter or the editor that you're pitching is going to bite. They really will. So, you don't have to tell the whole 1,000-word story in an email or in a phone pitch if you go that route. And so I think that's important too. I think if it truly is newsworthy, it'll get the attention it deserves. So
Yeah,
I try to remind clients of that often.
for sure. Film pitches. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. Like, what do you see on the horizon when it comes to PR marketing? What are you watching? What trends do you see happening?
Yeah, I think, I think writing and the written word is always kind of my first love. I'm a journalism major, or I was a journalism major in school. And so that's, I think the written word is not going away. I think it's just going to be, there's going to be different ways of getting that message out there. I mean, I've seen that on a community level in my little town here in North Carolina, where the newspaper has gone from being, a 7-day-a-week publication to maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And I think that's kind of true for the industry as a whole. I mean, I think what we do in healthcare is so important with thought leadership, whether it's through an article, through a podcast, through a video, whatever it may be. So I think the message is still going to be getting out there. I think PR is an invaluable component of that, but I think the medium in which the story is being told may be different going forward. I think too, marketing and PR, they're not the same thing. I get that a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, you do marketing, right? And I'm like, well, I do PR, but I think marketing and PR have to work in lockstep. They have to be a cohesive unit. You want your marketing message and your campaigns to align with the stories that you're pitching on the PR side. So in my mind, there has to be that cohesion and that synchronization of making sure that PR and marketing really work kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up here, what's the best piece of advice that you've gotten in your career, or maybe the thing you remember most?
Yeah. I would say, the kind of the story that resonates with me. So my first job before I did any of this was working on an assembly line at my dad's paperboard manufacturing company in East Tennessee. I love you, Dad. But it was, I did that for several summers, throughout high school and college. And it was honestly the hardest physical work I've ever done, but it also really it opened my eyes to just all the great relationships you can have from work and from hard work at that. But I remember there was one day, it was first shift. So it was 6:30 in the morning, and I was standing, with my little hairnet on, and I was standing at the assembly line, helping and doing my thing. And I remember the owner of the company walked by, and he kind of looked at me. He could tell I was nodding off, and he said, "Stay awake, stay in school." And it gave me such an appreciation for obviously the education that I was receiving at the time, not only there, but also at the collegiate level. But, I think it made me really appreciate just the sacrifices that, my family had made for me to go to school, but also for really valuing hard work. And as I look at my career today, I would not be where I am without all those sacrifices that people made for me and the hard work that's gone into getting where I am. So, work hard, play nice. I think that just really, that encompasses, Ben's mission, my mission. I think you can have both and you can do it really well. So
yeah.
That's
a great story. It reminds me of my kids working for me, and they've done some work on various things. They've published podcasts, all sorts of things for Healthcare IT Today, and they realized how mundane some of the work is. And for me, it was the same kind of message. It's like, hey, the reason I've been successful is doing all the things that no one else wants to do. It's
Mhm.
doing that mundane stuff that everyone else doesn't want to do because it's mundane and it's
Yeah.
monotonous and it's not fun, right? But to me, that's why I've been successful is the mundane and the monotonous. So it's interesting you kind of experienced that firsthand with your dad. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. I remember there was something that one of our, my college professor said, growing up or going through school, he always said, you sit under the shade of trees you didn't plant. And I feel like that is so true within this
hmm.
industry, as the HITMC Rising Star, recipient, just learning from other people in this community has just been such a valuable part of getting to be where I am today, talking to Matt, just about kind of the experience he had last year as the award winner. He shared so much good advice with me. So many people in this community have just wrapped me, you know, and just it's just been an invaluable part of this experience. So I'm definitely very grateful.
Well, I can say, Olivia, as someone who gets all of your pitches, that this is a well-deserved honor, and you work extra hard in the work you do and your work with clients and making sure that they have a successful time. So you're definitely a worthy award winner for the HITMC Rising Star Award. And thanks for sharing your experience and expertise with the HITMC community. And thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great healthcare marketing content like this, be sure to check it out at hitmic.com. And also go to the Health IT Marketing Conference.com to learn about our annual conference in 2023. Thanks, Olivia.
Thanks so much, Sean. Appreciate you.